Hello and welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specific to the wedding industry. On this show, I discuss tips to help you DIY your social media, as well as getting the confidence and income to outsource it. Thank you for allowing this episode to come through on your Bluetooth, your car radio, wherever it may be you're listening from today. Now, let's take your wedding business to the next level. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. Thank you for spending some time with me. I know that your time is precious and valuable, but let me tell you, this is an episode that's really going to be worth your time. But before I get into today's guest, I wanted to ask if you have joined the I Do Wedding Marketing Facebook group. Right now, it is a really intimate group where I share tips, tricks, and answer your questions. But because it is such an intimate group right now, you really want to get in on it because if you ask me a question in there, I'm going to answer. You're going to get some free coaching if you are in there. And if you find yourself with questions after any of these podcast episodes, that is the place to go in and ask it because then we'll be able to start a conversation and I can answer any questions you have that are specific to you and your type of business. So it is called the I Do Wedding Marketing Facebook group. You can search for it on Facebook or just check the link in the show notes because I will have it there. I am recording this intro on St. Patrick's Day, so top of the morning to you all. I'm getting ready for a weekend away. I think I mentioned last week's episode that I am going away to my husband and I are going to our first convention since COVID, and it is 90s Con, and I'm going to get to meet okay, so on my list, Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tori Spelling. So that's who I want to meet over this weekend. So I'm getting all my ducks in a row for next week now because I'll be away through Monday. But last week we did talk about on episode 83 how a small audience can mean big sales. And that's all about how a hyper focus on your audience doesn't mean you're going to be missing out on leads. It actually can mean that that focus is going to get you more leads. So you're going to want to go back to episode 83 to check that one out. Now, let me get to our guest because at the start of the episode, I mentioned how your time is valuable. And this is someone who not only understands your time, but the struggles to manage systems and structures to have in place for your business as a creative, as someone who's predominantly right brained. And this is why I'm really excited to have Jen Taylor of Design Your Wedding Business on the show. So she has a podcast as well. Just search Design Your Wedding Business. I'm going to have it linked down below. But if you like this podcast, you're going to love that one. Now, Jen's origin story, if you will, is that she's the owner and founder of Tailored Events. She carries over 15 years of wedding planning experience and has earned a wealth of knowledge throughout that career. While running her own business, she had the pleasure of working alongside highly innovative and talented creatives throughout the industry and beyond. And that's when she made the connection that there are right brain creatives who are missing the necessary structure to create logical systems in their companies. So when she launched Jen Taylor Consulting, now Design Your Wedding Business, she made it her mission to help creatives build streamlined workflows, processes, and procedures so they can grow their business and spend their time on what they love most, their craft, their family, and their life. Sounds like everything we need, right? And I know Jen probably sounds familiar to a lot of you guys. She's spoken at conferences like the special event, and she has been speaking at the Wedding Network, ABC. She's also been a part of the pages of Wedding Wire EDU, Cater Source, Book More Brides, Honeybook, Wedding Planner Magazine. If it's wedding related, she's done it. But now she is joining us here at the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast, and she's talking to us about tips to manage your inner CEO of marketing. So let's take it away with Jen Taylor. Okay, guys, I am so excited. I am here with Jen Taylor of Design Your Wedding Business. Hello, Jen. How are you?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm great.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is the first one I have to say where I was a little like nervous before the call. I really was.
Stop it. Stop it. I'm very honored though. Thank you so much. I saw your little the video this morning on
Yes.
my Instagram, and I was like, oh, I was just about ready to share it when we got on the call. So I will share it with the group and with my followers, and we'll get this out there.
Great. Yeah, said to the cat, I said, "Here's a catnip. Leave me alone. I'm chatting with Jen." So today we're talking about tips to manage your inner CEO of marketing. So I kind of just wanted to start really at the basis for that for our audience listening. And first would be, how do you define CEO?
Well, I did actually look up some CEO stuff.
Oh,
Just
good,
You
good.
know, it's one of those things where, the CEO gets thrown around. It's just like, well, I'm the CEO. And I
Mhm.
talk about these 8 CEOs. Well, it is actually, you have many, or businesses have many corporate executive officers charged with the management of a business. So there, in my view, there are 8 CEOs in people's business, besides the marketing or visibility. There's finance, HR, IT, systems, product services, client experience, and then the actual CEO themselves, yourself. You have to manage yourself as well. So it's not necessarily the CEO as what you see, like, you
Mhm.
know, Jeff Bezos is, he's no longer the CEO of Amazon, but the CEO of Amazon. That's
Right,
not
right.
that's not how
Mhm.
I see it. It's really more the corporate executives that are in charge of a business.
Right. And how do you feel that looks most typically from what you see in a wedding business?
Oh, we're all of them.
Yeah.
Depends on
Mhm.
what hat you're going to wear that day or
Mhm.
that part of the day. I have a friend who, she's a small business. She was a wedding planner, she was a stationer, she was all these things. And Monday, she calls it Money Monday. So she puts on her financial hat on Mondays and does and does all the financials. So it's really how you take that. So, as we go further along, I'll talk about CEO days and things like that, but it's really um we wear all the hats.
Yeah.
And so where do you want to start during at any particular time?
Yeah. And my weakness is when you add alliteration for it, like a Money Monday or, Taco
Oh,
Tuesday.
yeah.
So now let's put on the marketing hat. And how do you define marketing?
So it's really, at the end of the day, it's to build your know, like, and trust factor. So
Mhm.
it takes the customer experience, like the interests. You want to have the customer have interest in your company. That strategy creates that know, like, and trust factor to it. It is used to identify, so and satisfy and retain that customer. So
Mhm.
it's not sales. And people see, I mean, I was just recording a podcast a couple days ago with a friend of mine. She goes, It's not, I'm not doing sales when you are doing your messaging. It is marketing. It is
Mhm.
how to have the customer, at the end of the day, know, like, and trust you and say, you are my person."
I love that so much. I'm writing it down because, especially for me as a social media, manager, I'm not doing their sales. I'm
You're
not doing
doing
sales.
messaging, and
Yeah.
that's a huge part of, like, if you look at my messaging, I ask for the sale every once in a while, but it's about building that know, like, and trust factor.
Yes, I love that. That's so important. So I know you mentioned all the different hats a wedding pro has to wear. And we're not like Amazon where you have all the different people doing it. So in order to help with those hats and all the roles we play, why is it important for a wedding professional to embrace structure, management, and systems in their business and marketing?
As much as it's a pain in the ass to get implemented and get started, at the end of the day, it creates freedom for the business owner. it creates, and freedom can be anything. It could be freedom of time. It could be freedom of, having more creativity, freedom to spend time with your family, freedom to go on a trip,
Mm-hmm.
and the abundance of that. So it's really creating that process to go, okay, I know what I need to do each day, not necessarily each hour, but like I will share with your readers a small business task list. And this is
Right.
where I start off with, and it was one I had for tailored events. So when I had, so you'll see a lot of things that I was either wanting to do, wanting to implement, things I was doing in all the different phases of the business. And so when you get to that CEO time, and that you can go and say, okay, I can work on this, but you have to get a process in place to then have more time to do what you want, which is whatever that is. And it could also be that you can gain more business out of it because you now have time
Mm-hmm.
to grow. And I'm gonna throw about, I just did a podcast on growing, and growing is whatever you think growth is for you. So it's not, you don't have to be in a cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm.
It's your business. It's for me, that's why I'm slowly changing out of the Jen Taylor Consulting and moving into the Design Your Wedding business, because it's your business. It's
Yes.
your business. Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have those systems and structure in place, you're going to be able to say, okay, I have freedom in my head to focus on other things, to do something that I've always wanted to do, to have that creativity time to go do whatever that is. I have time to actually take a freaking vacation.
Yeah.
So that's why this is so important for small business owners, especially in the wedding industry.
And where would you recommend who's someone who's struggling from going from a wedding pro to CEO? Where do they start with this?
One step at a time.
One
It's just
step
like
at
eating the elephant, what, you have to take the time to say, okay, whether it's an hour a week, whether it's 15 minutes a day, I
Mhm.
don't care what it is. Take that sheet of paper next to you and go, okay, what am I doing right now? Write down what you're doing. That becomes a process. That
Mhm.
process then becomes part of your standard operating procedure. And then all of a sudden, the end of the year, you have a whole system already, you're like, oh, look what I just did. I created this. And this is my business standard operating procedures. This is how I do business.
Yeah.
So then when you bring on somebody, you do decide to grow in a bringing on an employee, you can say, hey, this is how I do business. You've already hired them. They've already gone through the process of all of that. But you can say, this is how I expect you to do business. So when I
Mhm.
had a team of planners, they had a lot of freedom in their business, because they worked for me, but I'm like, do how you want, but here's the structure.
Yes. And
And
that
that
Mhm.
that's the biggest part.
that leads to something else I wanted to ask you that I see a lot. I'm sure you do too, is that some people take on everything because they say nobody can market as my brand as well as I can, you know? And so what advice do you have to somebody in addition to what you were saying of recording their steps and processes? How can they trust outsourcing their marketing and tasks?
Don't delegate what you don't want to do.
Hmm.
If you like, I mean, I have a friend, she's a coach. She does all her posts. That's what she loves to do.
Hmm.
So if you still love to do it, then do it. But if you don't, what don't you like to do about it? Like, full transparency, I have somebody writing my messaging. She's
Hmm.
known me for almost 10 years. And and so I trust her. She knows my voice. And that's that. I outsource my graphics because I suck at fucking Canva. I'm like, I don't. That's find the things that you don't like to do. So it doesn't have to. Maybe you love marketing. Maybe you love all this. Then don't delegate it. Love it. Delegate something else.
Hmm.
So it's really more on what you want. So I still post. I take the messaging, I take the graphics, I combine them together and I go and schedule. I'm like, okay, I have my own thing. I'm like, I don't mind sitting on the couch on a, whatever tonight and scheduling my week's Instagram and Facebook pages. It's
Yeah,
not a big
that's my kind of ideal night.
I mean, it's sad.
How
I
I
mean,
roll.
I'm like, yes, today's a Thursday, Thursday night. I'm gonna schedule episode 45.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
now let me ask you something. While you're working, do you like to listen to anything in the background? Do you like it to be silent?
Oh, I have. I shouldn't say I am a sports nut. So I'm like,
Hmm.
I watch so golf is so I'm trying to relearn how to play golf.
That's great.
So my boyfriend's a huge golfer. So I'm like, okay. So last year was my first full season. I'm like, okay. And then this year is not, Seattle's still rainy and icky, so I haven't gone out. So I'm watching the players. So I'm gonna watch the players, watch the golf tournament, have it on, and just work. If for me, I need to have something on, but it's not necessarily something that I have to dig into.
Yes, yes. I'm a wrestling fan. So that's what I put on. It'll be
Oh,
that or YouTube or, something like that. But I find it's great for time blocking too. I'll be like, when this event is over, then I can take a break. I wonder now, this may be kind of I don't know if you have an answer for this, but would you say, are there maybe three most delegatable tasks that a wedding pro should consider, looking at and saying, can I delegate this? Or is it really up to each individual person?
it's up to each one, but I mean, bookkeeping, I would
Yeah.
delegate. I mean, that was the first thing I delegated out. I'm like, dude, I am done with this.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And then I've gone back and forth on my social media.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, sometimes. And so now I found a happy medium for me that works. And then actually for me, the podcast stuff, anything that I have to really dig into, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I I don't have a lot of, I mean, I have a lot of brain power, but then I don't have a lot of brain power. Like I'm not a big like, let's get into this, let's get into, Kajabi or,
Yeah.
let's learn how to do all the video stuff. I'm like, no,
Yeah. If
there's
I have to learn a new interface, I'm out. Like, it's like my brain can't take more.
I have other, I can use my creativity in other ways.
Mhm.
So hire somebody that can do that faster, quicker, and more efficient than me, because then I can focus on the things that I want to focus on. So, for me, it's anything like major video, audio, like I know how to do the videos. I know how to do, schedule, create my podcasts. And then I say, okay, here you go.
Mhm.
I know how to create, I know how how to do things. Like I know how to work on Canva. Do I want to? No.
Yeah.
I have other people that have create just beautiful graphics. I'm like, great, that looks lovely. I love it. It fits. Do it. So for me, it was, I always suggest your bookkeeping, and then automate your schedule.
Mhm.
So you don't have to go back and forth with your clients going, can you meet here? Can you meet here? Can you meet here? No, here's the link to my schedule. You
Yes.
figure it out. And then automate your transactions through your contracts. So from the time you create your proposal to the time they sign their contract, it's all automated. So, so it's not necessarily you're delegating, but it's a mixture of delegation and automation. So
Yes.
you're not always at your computer going, okay, I gotta wait for this is gonna come in. And no, boom, somebody sends me like, hey, I want to work with you. Great. Here's the first email that goes out. And so that automation is huge. That's part of your marketing, because that's part of the know, like, and trust factor. They know, they get that email comes out. Thank you so much for reaching out to Tailored Events. We're so excited about your wedding, blah, 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 blah. Here's a link to set up a time to meet, and here's our brochure.
Mhm.
Then I may send another personal email that they think that the first one came from me. Well, the second one does come from me. Thank you so much. I'm super excited. Please remember there's an email that came that shows blah 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 blah. And it doesn't have to be instantaneous. It can be later that night. It could
Yes,
be.
because the automation took care of the instantaneous one. Sorry, I'm getting excited because you
And
just worked in both things, which is that I think all wedding pros hear, that you need to respond right away and you need to be personal. And here you what you just said took care of both.
Yeah, I mean, you can be personal in that first automation too. They don't know it doesn't come from you. It does come from you. They
Right.
don't know that it comes from from a workflow.
Hmm.
And so then another couple days later, they get another, hey, have you had time to send this out? Or have so you are personally touching with them all the time. And they're still, and so that's still creating that marketing know, like, and trust factor, because they can say, oh yeah, she's reached out a couple times. I haven't responded yet. I better get back. So, but between the automation and the delegation of tasks, those are whatever you want to do. But the both of those together will then start creating that extra time, extra space, and be able to have you focus on things that you want to focus on.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite systems that you use for automation?
So I use HoneyBook
Hmm.
as my um, contract workflow automation, and I've used them for. I mean, I've been in business since 2004 for planning, so it's been a long time. So I started with them almost right when they started. Not quite. I think they reached out to some
Fantastic.
photographers first, and then I heard it from a photographer. I'm like, hey, get me in, and
Yeah.
so I've been in, and then for project management, I use IO Planner. So those are the two that I use. But I have friends that use Dasabo and clients that have used Dasabo and
Hmm.
17 hats and all those things. And they're all things that can help you have that. So you're not always running around going, where's the latest contract? Where is this? Where is that? Everything's there.
Yeah, and each one can really, it's worth looking into each to see which one just jives with you. Sometimes I have to do the free trial and just see if the interface translates with my mind, you know? And and what I want to ask you about is people who I know they'll be concerned about the ROI, return on investment, but how much of the return on investment is really going to be your time too?
It is your time. I mean, it's not just money, it's your
Yeah.
time. We have, so I know New York has a bunch of tolls. Seattle doesn't have, I mean, we don't have a lot of toll roads. We're just getting to that point. So, so you're in traffic, and let's just say it's pre-COVID. Even now, I mean, traffic is getting bad
Yeah.
again. So it's $10 to go from, a 20-mile span. How much are you going to pay your babysitter if you're on a date?
Hmm.
Like, though that $10 is so worth me driving that road just by myself, because I don't care, because my time is worth more
Hmm.
than that toll. I'm
Yes.
like, you know what? I'm not driving over here all the time. It's $10. Who cares? I am literally passing up all these cars, and I am not going to be sitting in this one, especially when you have a rainstorm. I mean, you name it, Seattle will stop traffic. So your time is money. So your return on investment, you need to look at that as well, because it's time. It is time, it is time for you figuring out emails going back and forth on when to set up a time to meet.
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
It is the time of, oh crap, I got to go find the contract. Oh, I've got to fill it out. Oh, I've got to do all this. That's already done. It's already in oh, I've got to create the proposal. It's already in there. You just have to put in this. You have to take the time up front to do all this, to make it, like, I go back to, a previous question is, you have to take the time to set it up. Like, that's the pain in the ass. But after it's set up, then you have something that is repeatable. And that's what a process is. It is repeatable, it is done, and you just have to say, okay, this is client Susie and Jane. Great, Susie and Jane. Let's, what phone number? Oh, you just put that in the system. it then automatically fills out, or they've already done that.
Hmm.
They filled out your contact form, which is attached to your CRM, then they already have everything in there that you need to know. And it's already in the contract. It's already in the proposal. You just have to put in the stuff that you need to put in there.
Dun, dun.
So it's the setup prior that's going to be, you're going to bang your head against the wall. But then after that, it's, you just have to review it and say, okay, yeah, this all looks good. That email looks good, because I have emails that are templated. Go in there, okay, yeah, that email still looks good. Okay, let's go. And you're
Great.
done. So the ROI, I think, pays for itself right away, because you're that much more streamlined and you can focus on other things.
Yeah. And, another more, I guess, intangible ROI is that trust factor, because when I see somebody with a really easy process, especially when I'm trusting you with a high price point like a wedding, that really helps, I think, for me, add ease for booking, because they see that you're organized, that you have systems, that this was easy for them. Because if it's hard just to get in touch with you, that could cause some panic right there. As you were talking about tolls, I thought of another automation, which here it's called Easy Pass. I don't know if that's different
Yeah.
everywhere else, but do you think they ever regretted switching tolls and offering Easy Pass? And then they even further automated it, where it just takes a picture of your license plate and you get something in the mail. It's crazy, but it just shows how the automations are better for everybody, for you and for them.
Yes, I don't have to sit in a toll line
Yeah.
to, like I cross I've moved to where, a different space in Washington, and I don't have the toll roads over here. I have one toll road, and I've got ferries. And I wish the ferries would then, I wish that
Yeah.
would automatically take from this bucket, because then I don't have to have a separate thing.
Yeah, well, fumbling for cash and change in the car.
So yeah, I'm like, just use the one. I mean, I've got a, so it's just having making people's lives easier is just that. And it's all of, it's the entire process of your entire life, your business life, your personal life, all of that. Everything can be run through your phone, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad.
One thing you said a lot in your messaging was that many of us in the wedding space are right brained. We're really creative. So getting in to do this sort of stuff,
It's not easy.
yeah. What advice do you have regarding that?
So for marketing, showcase your creativity. I mean, I met this lovely gentleman. I was just at the B Sage conference, and this gentleman is a stationer, and so he markets through video, and that's what he does. And I mean, he talks about, who he is, what he does, and and who, and really, it's at this, the thing is telling him who he wants to work with. So he's
Mhm.
marketing to the people he wants to work with. So if you find it, you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, like I listened to it, like I've met him. And then, and then I watched his video today. I'm like, but he brought his whole setup to the conference. And so he was doing his own posting on his YouTube page. And so you market how you want to market, show off your creativity. It doesn't have to be in a way that is actually what you do. His creativity is just creativity. And so what is that for you? So it's taking the time to figure out what that is, and you don't have to market everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. That is
you
so
don't have
true.
to, you know, find out what works for you. What do you, or what you like. It's not even what works for you. What do you like to do?
Mhm.
If I didn't have to market, and like I don't mind. I like the podcast has been a really fun for me,
Mhm.
fun thing to do. So I'm like, okay, if I can just do this would be great. And that's it. So I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have all these other things. I let it ride and just post and just let it go. So what works for you?
Yeah, I love that. It's really, also just think about, I love self-expression, and when I want to express myself, I find myself going to Instagram. I'm not going to Pinterest. It's just not me. Or I like LinkedIn. But it's like, think about where you want to share when you get that wedding, that great wedding shot, and take away the stress of thinking, "Oh, now I have to share this everywhere." Because then you may share it nowhere. Start
Yeah.
with, like you were saying, where you want to be first.
Yeah. And then, and then use a system. So I use Later or
Oh, I love Later.
whatever, excuse me, whatever system you want to use. And then I can click all three buttons and go, I'm going to post this post in LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, put everything in there, schedule it, and then I'm done.
Yeah, really,
And,
in one night a week. You could take it a week at a time. I do one day and do a whole month for some clients.
well, and that's what I used to do. So when for tailored events, I would sit down and take a weekend and that's when I did all of it. So I would take all, I would create, you have your content creation, you have your content plan, which is a whole nother thing. And
Hmm.
then you sit down and go, okay, here's the calendar. This is what I want to talk about. And then I would take, like you said, I would take a weekend. One day I would do all the graphics and all the things. And then the next day I would do all the caps, do all the writing. And then I would combine them too and schedule. And so, and this was back in the day where like, you have to have different ones on different things. And now,
Hmm.
now it's just like, forget it.
Yeah.
I was very much like, oh, I can't have the same thing on Instagram as I have
Yeah,
on
I
Facebook.
remember doing that as well. The dark days.
So really, I just take a weekend, at least I used to, and now I just take now I'm just doing design your wedding business and then working through that. And that takes me, as I said, everybody puts everything in a spot. I collect it all and then I just sit down and combine it and schedule it. So it's really how you want to do that, but it's another way to automate and do your business.
And this could be this could be a topic of its own, but just briefly, as much as we can, you mentioned having a content plan, and what would you recommend for a wedding pro listening who doesn't know how to identify, how to market their brand or what their content pillars are, or who they are?
Yeah. Is really um find out what their benefits, who if they know who their ideal client, what benefits do you provide for them? What is in the, because your clients are going to be listening to the What's in It for Me, the WIIFM station.
Mm.
And I don't know where I heard that from, but it's from somebody. And so what's in it for me is what your clients are saying. So then go, okay, what do they want to learn? What do they want to know?
That's
Write those down.
great. That's something to put on a post-it on your computer while you're writing content. What's in it for me?
Yeah, because that's what I mean. It's not even it's what I'm trying to do for my clients. It's like
Mhm.
what's in it for my clients. Like I want to give them contents for what's, like what do they want to hear? What do they want to know? But for my couples, it was what's in it for them. What do they, because that's all they care about. Like, how are you going to alleviate my problems?
Mhm.
I have problems. How are you going to fix them? And you can talk about your process. You can talk about, you can show off your designs or whatever you do. You can talk about how you work on the wedding day. You can show them testimonials. I mean, it gets into a whole nother part of a ball of wax, but at the end of each event, each wedding, I sent out a questionnaire. And two of the questions was, how did you feel before you met me and worked with me?
Mm.
And how did you feel afterwards? What are the three things I alleviated from your,
Brilliant. Showing that transformation and getting
and
the
so
validation.
so that's what's in it for them, because if it's a client that I love and I want more of them, then I'm going to show that as this is what's in it for them. And creating that content is a pain in the ass. And, I just sat down I'll just go back when I started my own podcast. I sat down and wrote down, I just took a spreadsheet and said 52 weeks. And then I just sat down and said, okay, this is what I have. This is what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started putting them with like other topics.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you have a topic of the month, whatever that is. And then you can build from there.
Brilliant. That leads me to something else I wanted to ask you, which is what can listeners expect to hear on the Design Your Wedding Business podcast? Because I think they'll love it. If they like this, they're going to like that.
It really goes through the 8 CEOs. It goes through a lot of that. I have guests on. We're doing, I have people talk about money. I've had a whole big thing about marketing. I'm just finishing up right now. So marketing has been on my, radar for
Great.
like
Now's the time to head over there, guys.
so it's really everything about business. And I try to keep it short and sweet. I don't rant and I do rant and rave on my own way. But I don't, I had a really nice comment, just like, you know what, this is exactly what I needed. It's not a lot of fluff. It's not a lot of, it's just a lot of, here's what I think, and here's what I suggest. I mean, again, it's their business. I'm just giving them guidelines, just like I did with my wedding clients. I am your guide. Let me guide you through business. Let me guide you through your wedding. Let me, as a director of operations, I can help you with getting your business to a point where you feel like you can lessen the grip off the steering wheel and enjoy what you've created, because you started this business for a reason. So what is that? And let's get back to that. Mine was, I just loved the process of wedding planning. And with the Design Your Wedding Business podcast and everything around it, is I really enjoy talking about weddings, and I really enjoy talking about business. So let's marry the two and figure it out. And so, yeah, so it's really a lot about all those 8 areas, like team, yourself. You get I'm a woo girl, so you get some woo stuff in there.
That's great.
Things like that, boundaries, expectations is a huge topic. So it really runs the gamut. And so now I'm actually in June, the beginning of June will be my first full year. So I'm working on year 2.
It sounds like you're the Jiminy Cricket on a wedding pro's shoulder.
So I mean, it's like people call, I was called the taskmaster when I was wedding planning for my friend of mine. I'm like, I'm not mean.
No.
But we all have, like I want somebody I want to be the person just keeps you moving forward, that you just don't get stuck in the business or get stuck in your wedding. Like, it's fun. Business is fun for the most part. And it's something, I mean, who can work? I mean, it's just like, we can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at least for me and as a planner, I could have worked from anywhere. I didn't need a place to plop. So if I'm traveling and I'm like, oh, I need to do a couple hours of work, I could. So that's, and who, that's a great thing to do.
Before we get to what I call our rapid fire questions, I do want to ask, because I know I have some listeners who they're working, maybe it's at a venue, they're working for somebody else and they want to go on their own, but they're afraid of the CEO stuff. They're afraid of those things. What words of encouragement do you have for them?
Start listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I used to teach a wedding planning course back in, I think 14 or 15. And then in 2000, even 13, 14, because in 2016, I created a wedding planning educator, and it was how to start becoming a wedding planner. And it got shelved. And so I actually spent 2 days ago rewriting the start of that again. And so it's just learning what they are and how to do that and what you need to do. So start off with who you are. Who you are, who do you want to serve? And then there's a whole, just start from the very beginning of my podcast and just work your way through,
Mhm.
because I'm pretty much telling you what you need to work on. But no, there is a course coming that will help people that are looking to move out of their corporate wedding position into their own. And sorry venues, I don't mean to do that, but I want
No,
to.
right, right. I know. As I said it, but it's really, you don't want somebody who's not happy anyway. It all always
It
works
all
out.
works
There are
out.
the
But
people who love being under the security of a venue and the people who are meant to operate on their own.
and when I would teach this course at a community college, I would have people come in from, from venues and things like that. But I also, if they're like, well, I want to start on my own, I said, well, if you, she goes, but I'm scared. I'm like, go work for a venue, go work for a
Mhm.
caterer, go work for a rental company, go get the stuff that you need. Even with the interns I had, like, I would tell them, I don't have a space for you right now, but go look. So I took a few years out and had some major life issues going on. So I kind of removed myself. And then when I came back, I actually spoke at my own NACE chapter, and one of my interns was there. And she's like, I'm now working for this rental company. And I could have cried because it was just like, I mean, it was just a really nice thing to see that she is proactive in learning the industry. And that's what I always had my planners. Like, we wanted to learn about the entire industry and be able to be advocates for our clients. And this is the way to do it. So, but yeah, I've got a course coming out. Listen to the podcast, start from the very beginning, find out who you are. And then those 8 CEOs will always be there. They're not going to go away. So what I tried to tell you is that they're not scary. And this is the small steps that you can do for your, to start building that business. And keep your day job. I mean, that's what I was told when I started planning. I was in a corporate job. I was like, you know what? This is really fun. I mean, I was the bride that said, "Oh, this is really, I can do this." And I project management. I know how to buy. I know how to manage a project. So that's what wedding planning is managing a project. And so my planner's like, totally keep your day job, do it. You'll be. She actually was like, you'll be great. And so that's what I did. But you've got to keep the business part learning and knowing. And
Terrific. I love that. And also, because it really can become, it doesn't mean that when you do go on your own, the relationship's over. Very often you end up referring each other and still working together, and it becomes a value to you both.
yeah,
So great things can come of it.
yeah.
I have some kind of quick rapid fire questions
Yes.
for you. So, first is the best weddings have.
Great music and a dessert bar.
Yes, love it. So this one I didn't put on here, but I'm going to ask: cocktail hour or Viennese, which is like more of your favorite, dessert or the cocktail hour?
I'm always for a cocktail hour. I'm not a big dessert. I mean, I love dessert, but I know if I eat it too late, I'm up all night. So I'm always for a cocktail hour. But I love a good dessert bar because I want to try all the things.
I love when they come in like the little handhold. Yeah, so you can just keep
Yes.
dancing and while eating your little shooter.
Yes. You don't feel like you've just eaten a whole piece of cake. You're
Yep.
like,
The last book I read was.
no, I listened to the Atomic Habits. That
Oh,
was my,
fantastic. Fantastic. That's
I'm
great.
actually going to listen to it again because it was very sporadic in my listening. So I'm going to start at the beginning again and listen to it.
Great. A badass business owner knows that
Processes are everything. They produce stability and structure to grow.
a sexy system includes.
Flexibility.
Okay. The last show I binge watched was.
The Queen's Funeral.
Oh.
I haven't watched it yet, and I've got to. I am. and I've got to get ready for the coronation. So
Mm.
I've got to I got to get some room in there. So I haven't completely binge the entire
Mhm.
funeral because I know what happens. But I want to see it all. But I've been doing that this week.
Great. And the place you hope to travel to next is?
Oh, well, I'm actually going. So in April, I'm going to Senegal, Africa
Wow.
for my boyfriend's daughter's wedding.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So there's a wedding involved with it too.
Yeah.
Now that's
And
exciting.
I'm trying not to throw on my wedding cape. I'm trying to
Yeah.
do as my
That's
late as my late husband says, you can put the wedding cape away, but I am trying to not pack it. But I know um she's already FaceTimed me with some questions, and I actually need to start doing some wedding stuff for her as well.
oh, that's
So
it's good that she asked. You know, when they ask, then it's fair game. Then it's like, all right, I can have the cape. Now, as where can people follow you to hear updates on when the course is out or if they want to work with you?
Jen Taylor Consulting is the website. So just like it sounds.
Mhm.
But a lot of my information is will be on the Design Your Wedding business, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, the podcast. All of that is Design Your Wedding business.
Great. And I'll have those linked in the show notes below. You can head over to the podcast now because if this past 40 minutes or so was any indication, there's going to be a lot of value there. Thank you for chatting with us, Jen.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'm popping back in to give a big thank you to Jen for such a valuable and fun and easy conversation. And if this podcast interview was any indicator of the value she gives, you're going to want to head over to the Design Your Wedding Business podcast. I will have that linked down below, as well as all of her socials. As I mentioned, if you're not in the I Do Wedding Marketing Facebook group, you're going to want to hop in there and ask your questions. That's where I'm going to be answering any questions you guys have. Thank you for listening, and I will be back next week again on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. If this episode was helpful, please consider leaving a rating and review on this podcast as it helps us to reach more wedding pros. See you next week.